Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfring.
Welcome into the Friday edition of the 5-Pack. Great to have you here on the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfring with you, where we give you the rundown of 5 things that mattered from last night, 5 things that will matter for tonight, and of course, the pack break. The pack rip, if you will. This is probably more of a pack rip today because we're stuck with cellophane. And even more so, we're stuck with NFL Pro Set. I apologize. Usually we want to send you into the weekend on a ramp into the sky, on an upswing. I don't know if we're doing that with 1991 Pro Set Platinum Series 1. This isn't even the regular Pro Set football pack. But hey, everybody's talking about the NFL, so we'll open an NFL pack. Find up a bit later in the show. I want to thank our producer today, Tony LaBarbera, hanging out with us here on BSN. Great to have him alongside for the next hour. Great to have you as well. Did you enjoy last night? I started thinking maybe about an hour into that NFL draft, saying to myself, it's fascinating that NFL fans the world over, like literally the world over, are intensely watching this event from Kansas City, Missouri. And there's literally no action. There's not a helmet to be found anywhere. There's not a football to be found anywhere. There's not a play clock. I guess there's a clock, but it's not a play clock. And yet the numbers will be huge. And I'll also throw in this. For an event where like nothing action-packed happens, it's still a pretty enjoyable watch. Even if it's kind of silly how big it is, even if it's kind of silly that, 30,000 people stood outside on the grass to watch Roger Goodell hand out a bunch of hats and jerseys. Even though it's kind of silly, viewing it from the pleasure of your sofa isn't that bad. It actually moves pretty quickly. So, hey, give it up to the NFL. They fooled us all, and they've made this an event that all of us are watching. Of course, not everybody has the ability to sit there for 3 or 4 hours on a Thursday night and watch the NFL draft. So that's why you come to us here at BSN, because every single day, and certainly today, we recap what mattered from the night before, and frankly, it is all NFL. Yes, all NFL. We'll be the sucker. We'll play the part. We'll talk nothing but football in our 5 things that mattered. Let's get rolling with number 1. And I got to say, there's a lot of angles. There's a lot of things I could start with and things I could push and opinions I can make. I will start with the one that I think for our audience kind of matters the most. Because if you play fantasy football, guessing many of you do, what's important? What's really important is running backs, right? And the NFL doesn't draft these guys, not in the first round at least. I looked up the averages. If you go back the last 12 years, and I'll tell you in a bit why I chose 12 years, but if you go back the last 12 years, we get an average of about 23 to 24 running backs drafted every NFL draft. So yesterday, we got 2 in the first round. So we're going to get a lot of running backs today and tomorrow. Don't worry. We're going to get at least 17 or 18 more running backs. Most of them you won't care about. Some of them you will. But the fact that we got 2 yesterday in the first round is kind of grounds for excitement around these parts. How rare is it to get 2 running backs in the first round? This is the second time it's happened since 2010. Second time. So it happened last night. Bijan Robinson going to Atlanta. Jahmyr Gibbs, for whatever reason, going to Detroit. We'll talk about that in a bit. So it happened last night. The previous time was 2017. If you look at the 2 names that were drafted in 2017, they were actually top 10 picks in the first round. Fournette and Christian McCaffrey, top 10 picks in 2017. And then you go back to 2010. Let's put your draft hat on. Can you guess who the 2 running backs drafted in the first round were back in 2010? CJ Spiller and Ryan Matthews are the two guys. Fournette and McCaffrey, that worked out. Spiller and Matthews, so-so. Spiller could never stay healthy, never really had that big season. Matthews had a couple of good years with the Chargers and then quickly faded late. And that's kind of how the position works. And that's why people don't invest in it. You know, that's why you don't see running backs going in the top 10. You don't see running backs in the top 20. Last night, we got a running back in the top 10 in Bijan Robinson, and we surprisingly got another running back at number 12 in Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's talk about both these guys, starting with Bijan Robinson, who I think no matter where he would have landed, and again, he landed with the Falcons, which is a good spot, but no matter where he would have landed, he would have become a top 10 running back for almost all of us in fantasy football. Now, I guess you could say, oh, he lands in a place like, I don't know, Philadelphia or Baltimore where they have 3, 4, 5 running backs, whatever it is. But he landed in Atlanta. Now, Atlanta was not a predicted landing spot because just last season, the Falcons in the 5th round drafted Tyler Algier, and the guy turned in a 1,000-yard rushing season as a rookie. But still, Arthur Smith and the Falcons could not help themselves. They had to take Bijan Robinson, number 8 overall. Last night, Arthur Smith, as well as the team's GM, met with the Atlanta media. And Arthur Smith was asked about the idea of hey, 2 years ago, you went Kyle Pitts as like a top 5 pick at tight end. Last year, you went Drake London as a top 10 pick in the first round, wide receiver. This year, you do the uber rare thing of going with a running back in the top 10. And Arthur Smith was asked about, hey, do you kind of feel like you're doing stuff nobody else is doing? And why is that? Here's what he said.
Our beliefs and the way we operate. But that's a lot of moves. Look at the other moves we made, Mike. Not just the draft. You're trying to find value and where you can. I think we've tried to be creative. Certainly the first 2 years is, certain things we're trying to work around to give us a chance to win and to build the right culture around here. So, yeah, I think there's a lot, like I always think about this business, there's so much paranoia and insecurity and, people want to crowdsource things and go with groupthink to make safe so they feel good right now. And, we'll see. We'll find out. But we feel pretty damn good about where we're at.
We shall see. We shall find out. I will say this, full credit to the Falcons. They're trying to build something offensively. They got Desmond Ridder, the young quarterback. They've got London. They've got Pitts. They've got Cordero Patterson. They now bring in Bijan Robinson. They are trying. Thus far, the results are not there. Drake London was so-so in his rookie season. I would look at Kyle Pitts and say he's been fine, but expectations were sky high. So that's a problem. With Bijan Robinson, here's the thing. A lot of people are drawing this parallel. Arthur Smith came from Tennessee. He had Derrick Henry. He's now in Atlanta. He's getting his Derrick Henry. He is getting his bell cow. I will say Bijan Robinson, to me, kind of brings a little more to the table than Derrick Henry. And that's going to sound silly to a lot of you. Let me explain. Derrick Henry is a stud running back who can handle the football 25 times a week. And we've seen it. He's all pro level. Might even be in the Hall of Fame. But Bijan Robinson is a guy who can not only give you 15 to 20 carries, but he also can catch 4 to 5 passes. Bijan Robinson is much more usable, adaptable in the passing game. And you start to look at the Falcons, and again, a lot's riding on Arthur Smith and figuring this out, but you got Pitts, you got London, you got Patterson, you got Bijan Robinson. They can move these guys everywhere. You got Tyler Algier. You can move him everywhere. Like, they will come out of the huddle, and people will wonder, are we looking at 12 personnel, 11 personnel? Like, because guys will be everywhere, and guys will be moving around. Patterson can be a running back and a wide receiver. Bijan Robinson can be put in the slot. Kyle Pitts, is he lined up as a tight end or is he lined up out wide? Like, they've got options here. Now, do they have the signal caller? That is a question. But I think from an offensive perspective, you're kind of excited. Now, if you're a Falcons fan, you're saying, we still suck on defense. Did we really need Bijan Robinson? Robinson should end up with like 1,500 total yards this year. He should be a top 10 fantasy running back if all goes according to plans. He should be there. So, you're going to have things happening, I think, with the Falcons offense. Are you going to be winning games? I said months ago, I said this at the end of the season. My pick to win the NFC South would be Atlanta. Their schedule is cake. Their schedule is real cake. Take a look at it. Now they bring in a running back who should be able to touch the football 20 times a week. They got options. They may have to outscore teams, 38-32, but they got options and they should score, which we love in the fantasy game. We love those points. Now, as for Jahmyr Gibbs, he goes to Detroit. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows why he's at Detroit. You've got DeAndre Swift, who you drafted, 3 years ago, and you've barely used him. It was kind of drafted just like Jahmyr Gibbs was, to be the same guy. You just signed David Montgomery. You got 3 running backs like Detroit. I get they're everybody's playoff pick, and they'll probably make the postseason. It's not all that difficult anymore. Green Bay's going backwards. The Bears are still building. Minnesota, who knows where they stand? They may move on from Dalvin Cook. Detroit's in a pretty good spot to make the postseason. Did you need Jahmyr Gibbs? On the surface, everybody's like, interesting, surprising. Jahmyr Gibbs went 12th overall. Detroit had the 18th pick. They probably could have gotten Gibbs there. They probably could have traded back from the 18th and gotten Gibbs at 23, 24. Sometimes, though, you just want your guy. And Detroit wanted their guy. I hope they find a way to use these 3 guys, but for us in the fantasy universe, it's like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to go get David Montgomery or DeAndre Swift or even Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know. I don't know what Detroit's going to do. They are a very pass-heavy offense. Do they still do that? Last year, the only guy who found the end zone when they were running the football is now gone. That was Jamal Williams, who has joined New Orleans. So it was a head-scratcher to many. It's a head-scratcher to me. But, hey, 2 running backs in the first round. We never see it. We got it last night. Let's go to our second item that mattered from last evening. It is the Indianapolis Colts going at number 4 and choosing a guy they hope will follow in the footsteps of other great Colt quarterbacks. I'm not talking about Jeff George, by the way, or Kelly Stauffer, or any of those guys. They're hoping, fingers crossed, that Anthony Richardson can be the guy like Johnny Unitas was the guy, like Peyton Manning was the guy. I guess you could say like Andrew Luck was the guy before he came to his senses and said, this football ain't very healthy. Anthony Richardson, the pick at number 4 for the Indianapolis Colts. Excitement, huge, dude. I mean, the measurables are off the chart. You're talking 6'4" and 240. And he's got a rocket of an arm. He can run. It's what you want in a 21st century quarterback in the NFL. And we've seen a lot of success. I mean, just Jalen Hurts is the most recent. Lamar Jackson, who we'll talk about in a bit. Obviously, guys like Cam Newton, these guys that can get outside the pocket and hurt you. They're physical specimens. So now we go to Anthony Richardson. Now, the knock on Richardson, he's raw. It's 13 games. That's all he's got, 13 starts at the University of Florida. He was okay, by the way, in those 13 starts. It's not like he set the world afire. The GM for the Colts is Chris Ballard. He spoke about Richardson's skill set after the draft pick last night.
A guy can run and add that element to your offense. I mean, it's a big plus. It puts stress on defenses, and obviously he has that capability. But I just wouldn't sleep on his throwing ability either. I mean, that ball comes out pretty now. He can spin it. He's got a huge arm, and he's made some huge plays in the pass game. So we're excited to work with him.
Yeah, it sounds like you're describing Jamarcus Russell from a few years back. No. I'm not predicting that Anthony Richardson will be Jamarcus Russell, but I remember Jamarcus Russell. The hype was he can be kneeling from the 20-yard line and he can throw it into the end zone 80 yards while kneeling. And I thought to myself, well, when you're kneeling in an NFL game, you're usually down already. It doesn't matter if you can throw the football 80 yards while kneeling. We don't do that in the NFL. I don't know where Richardson stands on that very important test. I don't think it matters. I don't blame the Colts for making this choice. I will say, if you're thinking about Richardson for fantasy perspectives, he's probably a QB2. If you're one of these people that drafts a top 5 QB, a top 6 QB, when you draft those guys, you're usually saying, I'm going to start this guy every single week. Right? You draft Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I'm starting this guy every single week. So you don't really need a good QB2 if you draft those guys, top 5 quarterbacks. You don't really need one. So what you do is you say, you know what, I'll throw a dart on Anthony Richardson. Now, I don't know where the hype train's going to end with Richardson. Maybe people are hyping him into the top 12. Maybe we see training camp and he wins the job. I don't think that's possible. I don't think the Colts should do that. They've got Gardner Minshew. He should be fine for the month of September. And then you turn it over to Richardson probably by week 5, week 6. That would probably be the plan in a perfect world. Maybe in a perfect world, the Colts just sit him for a year. There is the expectation he's going to be raw. I think the Colts realize that. But he's a very exciting quarterback. And, of guys who have like this ceiling, is there a guy with a greater ceiling of any of these quarterbacks? No, it's Anthony Richardson. It's being enticed by the height, by the build, by the speed, by the arm. The Colts have weapons. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. You got weapons. They've spent a lot of money on their offensive line. It hasn't really paid off, but they've blown a lot of coin on that O-line. They needed something. I hope their long, eternal search finally comes to a close. Kind of tired of the Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan and Jacoby Brissett stuff. So hopefully Richardson's the guy. We shall see. Year one, you kind of throw it, dart throw, see what you get. Like I said, you draft him late, get him as a QB2. You draft him in best ball. Who knows where we end up? Look at those college numbers, by the way. He completed, I think it's 54% of his passes. It's a horrendous number. You got to be completing like 65% in the NFL. And a guy we're going to talk about here in a bit, that's his challenge. He's 5 years into the league. Can't throw the football. Not to the level of the really good quarterbacks. And he's still struggling with that. He's improved, but he's not there. Richardson's going to have to improve a lot in that aspect of the game. Let's move to our third item that mattered from last night. Well, if we're talking quarterbacks, don't we have to talk about Will Levis? Yeah, we got to talk about that. There was a vibe that Will Levis would go number 2 in the NFL draft last night. Instead, Houston went with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud was expected to fall in the draft. Will Levis, maybe Houston would fall in love with him. They didn't. But DraftKings, if you went over to DraftKings and you were playing the wagering game, like Will Levis, I think 2 days ago was minus money to go as the number 2 pick. Now, as we sit here today, we're hoping Will Levis goes as number 32. That's what we're hoping. That is the kind of fall that we have with Will Levis. Now, what the hell happened? How did this occur? How did he not get selected in the first round? Well, after last night's festivities, Todd McShay with ESPN joined Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter. McShay, of course, one of the draft insiders, he and Mel Kiper. And he talked about Levis and the fall. Here's what he said last night on ESPN.
Gifted. He's a flamethrower. He's got mobility. He's built sturdy. He's tough as nails. He's an ultimate competitor. There's so many good things about Will Levis, but there were some negatives. I mean, you look at the 23 interceptions the last 2 years. That's only 2 guys that were worse than him, and they both had at least 300 pass attempts in Aiden O'Connell and Sam Hartman. So the percentage of turnovers was a big problem. I think inside the pocket, the biggest thing studying tape was inside the pocket when he was bottled up a little bit and pressure started to come. I don't think he trusted his eyes, and he didn't quite see the whole field. That was a big issue. And then, listen, just some reports, and you don't know who to trust this time of year, but apparently it was true. He came off as kind of not having ideal personality and maybe some arrogance and some cockiness in his meetings. That's a team-by-team basis. But ultimately, the turnovers and the style of play, too, is an issue because he plays the quarterback position like a linebacker, and we saw the toll it took on his body this past year. A lot of teams I talked to are worried that he's going to be a Carson Wentz case when it's all said and done if he doesn't learn how to protect his body better.
Todd McShay there of ESPN joining Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter. Those were the thoughts last night. I was looking at thoughts today. I checked out a mock draft for round 2. This was done after last night, so we knew the first 31 names off the board. And I was saying, okay, Will Levis, surely he's going to be early in the second round. On that mock draft, he was going 55th to Detroit. So we've had falls over the years. People have pointed out Aaron Rodgers, Brady Quinn, all this stuff. If Will Levis were to fall to 55, which I don't think is doable, there's going to be somebody who trades up. In fact, we are hearing rumors already this morning that Pittsburgh, who's got the first pick of the second round, they're number 32 overall, they are fielding calls from QB interested teams. So I think he's going to go like in the first 7 or 8 selections tonight. Somebody will surely trade up. Now, if you look at the board right now, Detroit's at 34. Now, you might say they have Jared Goff. Hey, they had DeAndre Swift and David Montgomery. Did that stop them from taking Jahmyr Gibbs? No. And Jared Goff, you use him this year, maybe next year, and then he becomes too expensive. You send him packing. That's how it works in the NFL. So Detroit's at 34. The Rams are at 36. Now, we could very well be entering the final year for Matthew Stafford. So maybe there. Vegas, 38. Tennessee is at 41. Washington, 47. And Tampa, I'll throw them in here too, at 50. So there are some teams who would be interested in any quarterback, Will Levis or not. Those are kind of guys in the first, 15 to 20 picks of the second round. Again, Detroit, the Rams, the Raiders, the Titans, the Commanders, and the Bucks. I would expect, if I had to make a bet here, Will Levis, here's his name in the first 5 selections tonight. Let's go to our fourth item that mattered from last night. Talk wide receivers, shall we? We didn't get a single wide receiver in the first 19 picks. We had 2 running backs, no wide receivers. Didn't get a single tight end either in the first 20 picks. Didn't get a tight end until pick 25? But wide receivers, oh man. Once the dam was breached, it busted. We had a pick at 20, Jackson Smith Njigba out of Ohio State. He goes to Seattle. 21, Quentin Johnstone out of TCU went to the Chargers. At 22, Zay Flowers, Boston College, goes to Baltimore. And at 23, Jordan Addison of USC goes to Minnesota. So boom, 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 boom. 20, 21, 22, and 23. What's fun about this is now we get to play the game for like the next 4 years. Who did well? Who got it right? Because these 4 receivers are now forever grouped together. Now, in the immediate term, I'm talking about this year, 2023. I mentioned those teams, Seattle, Chargers, the Ravens, and the Vikings. The good news for all 4 of these wide receivers is they show up on teams where the quarterback's in place. Vikings have Cousin, Ravens have Jackson, Chargers have Herbert, and of course, you go to Seattle, they have Geno Smith, who just signed a long-term contract, so that's good. On the negative side, I would say 3 of these 4, maybe even all 4, but at least 3 of these 4 receivers show up, and they're not the number 2. They certainly aren't the number 1, and they're not the number 2. Smith Njigba is behind Metcalf and Lockett. It's a given. You look at Zay Flowers going to the Ravens. Yeah, I'll throw my hands up with the Ravens. This is now 3 of the last 5 years where in the first round they drafted a wide receiver, and they failed with all. Maybe I shouldn't call Rashad Bateman a failure. He's been injured. He'll still be with the team this year. But they've not done anything with receivers. They were kind of close with Marquise Brown, and they moved on. Devin Duvernay, and you bring in OBJ. You've got Nelson Aguilar. So now you bring in Zay Flowers. If nothing else, they are giving Lamar Jackson the pieces to succeed. But Flowers, kind of gets lost in the shuffle there. He's a slot guy. That's kind of where Mark Andrews does his work. So it's not the best spot. You look at the Chargers, Quentin Johnstone with TCU. The good thing with Johnstone is Keenan Allen's old and Mike Williams is always hurt. So maybe Johnstone lands a spot there. In Minnesota with Jordan Addison coming out of USC, for those who forgot, they moved on from Adam Thielen this year. So Addison is one of those guys who will compete to pick up that mantle of Thielen. But you do have KJ Osborne, who flashed a couple of times last year and the year before. So none of these guys land in great spots that get you amped in the fantasy game, but they're all in decent spots. It's almost like it's not this year, it's next year. That's the expectation. Like Lockett could be on his way out of Seattle at the end of this season. Certainly with the Chargers. If I had to pick one guy, it's probably Johnston with the Chargers, like a guy that I'd want this year. And the reason is Keenan Allen, again, missed a lot of games last year. He's getting old. He's always beat up. Mike Williams always beat up. That's why I go Quentin Johnstone of this group. He's working with Justin Herbert. They're going to throw. So of all these guys, that would be the one that I would slot at the top of the list. Finally, our fifth item that mattered from yesterday is not from the NFL draft, but it is from the world of the NFL. It finally happened. We finally got an agreement. Lamar Jackson signed, sealed, and delivered. If you missed it yesterday, it was announced before the draft, 5 years, $260 million, of which $185 million is guaranteed. Bravo to both sides. Lamar Jackson, you got your money. You're set for life. You're set for like the next couple of centuries. Baltimore Ravens, you didn't give in. There were silly demands. There was all sorts of public crap going on, and Jackson saying this and, sending out cryptic tweets and all this junk that people do now. You didn't give in. Let it be known, Lamar Jackson wanted like $235 million guaranteed. He got $185. He didn't lose, by the way. He just didn't get what he finally understood the reality of the situation. Something that I've certainly talked about for the preceding 3 months. There's a reality going on, Lamar. You're living in one world, a Deshaun Watson world. The entirety of the NFL is living in another world. It's called reality. Lamar Jackson finally came to that conclusion. And again, he didn't lose. Just saying, it took a long time for him to understand the situation. Ernie DaCosta is the GM for the Ravens. He's the point man for these negotiations. He was talking about the the drafting of Zay Flowers. He also talked about the signing of Lamar Jackson yesterday.
I think it's just one of those things, like sometimes you just need time. These things develop. And, as I said, I think I've said it a few times, sometimes these things can happen in 2 weeks and sometimes it takes 2 years. And this was on that scale. But, I know that our appreciation and love for Lamar has really never wavered, but it was business as well. And, I said today, and I feel that way. Sometimes with family, things can get tough, right? And we all feel that sometimes. When you're in a fight with your parents or a sibling, or you're trying to figure something out, and it's like the emotion of it. And there was definitely some emotion. But in the end, we've been blessed to have Lamar as part of this organization for a long time. We've won a lot of football games. I think he feels this place is special too. And, it was business. It wasn't personal. And I think over time, that's kind of what developed.
Again, that's Ernie DaCosta, GM for the Ravens, speaking last night in a press conference there in Crab Cake Land. Talking about Jackson, it's good to have him. The Ravens are better with him. You see the crawl below me: more money, more weapons, more expectations. Okay, we talked about the money. He's got that. More weapons: Zay Flowers, OBJ, Nelson Aguilar, Bateman's going to be back. Like a lot of weapons here. You got all those running backs as well. That third point: more expectations. The Ravens, I have applauded them for this the last 3 or 4 years. What they have done as an offensive system with Lamar Jackson is not easy. They have done an excellent job as a coaching staff of putting Lamar Jackson in spots to succeed and in crafting an offense that plays up his incredible skill set. He doesn't have a perfect skill set, but he does have an incredible skill set. And they've done an excellent job with their offensive system of taking advantage of that. Of note is that Mark Roman is gone, the OC, and now Todd Monken is in. Now, the expectation, and the Ravens have said this, the expectation is Todd Monken is not going to be near as run-heavy as the Ravens have been in previous years, which makes sense. That's why we're seeing them sign OBJ. That's why we're seeing a third wide receiver drafted in the first round in 5 years. They want to throw the football. They also want to protect Lamar Jackson. Newsflash, Lamar Jackson's game, he can't play this way for another 10 years. He just can't. He'll get destroyed. His body will give out on him. So they have realized, hey, we got to pass more. That's what we got to do. Now, here's the thing with Jackson. Great to have a deal. Great to have these guys on board. Let's get into camp. Let's learn the new playbook, all that stuff. Lamar Jackson has one season of over 65% completion percentage. It was that great year. Has it been 3 years now? When he won the MVP, he was at 66. He's got to be 65. Last year, he wasn't there. The year before, he wasn't there. He's got to be at 65. Okay, you just do. And here's the other part of that. Lamar Jackson has never thrown more than 401 passes in a season. That most quarterbacks, throw 500 times. Lamar Jackson's never been over 401. My expectation is they want him to throw at least 450 times this year. They wouldn't even have a problem if Lamar Jackson's throwing 500 times, 480, somewhere around there. They want at least 450. Can Lamar Jackson complete 65% of his passes throwing 450 times? He's done the 65 once. He's never come close to the 450. But that's kind of the plan now. So more money, more weapons, and more expectations for Lamar Jackson. Those are the 5 things that mattered from last night. Coming up in just a few here on the 5-pack, we'll get you the 5 things that will matter for tonight. First, though, let's talk some more NFL draft and talk about our day 2 coverage right here on the Better Sports Network.
NFL Draft is now officially open.
Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm presents the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast, covering the fantasy football and sports betting angles of the NFL Draft.
Are you ready? Let's get it started.
Rookie scouting reports, NFL player comparisons, instant projections, draft props, and live betting. Live reports from Fantasy Alarm's Britt Flynn in Kansas City. Follow the NFL Draft and play our live Q&A contest for your chance to win fabulous prizes.
With the first pick,
This is the 2023 NFL Draft Bettercast on Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network.
Welcome back to the 5-pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome back in here on BSN. Want to follow up that NFL draft promo by reminding you 6 o'clock Eastern tonight. They do start, I think, an hour earlier. Last night was 7 o'clock Eastern with the Bettercast. We'll get going at 6 o'clock tonight. Round 2 of the NFL draft is coming your way. It's a lot of fun. We kind of give you the instantaneous fantasy coverage, what it means for down the road. We can talk wagering in the Bettercast. Certainly there's some good back and forth with the rest of the assembled crowd in there. So if you're looking for a different and unique way to enjoy the NFL draft, we did it last night. We'll do it again tonight. Make sure to check out that Bettercast right here at the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink back with you. We have given you the 5 things that mattered from last night. Let's go to the 5 things that will matter for tonight. And we're back in Kansas City, Missouri for night number 2 of the NFL draft. We talked a lot about the 2 running backs. Wow, what a windfall. 2 running backs in the first round. Tonight, we may get 3 or 4 more running backs, and we may see them early. We've got at least 3 guys to pay attention to tonight. And you see all 3 of them there. That is Tyjae Spears of Tulane. That is Zach Charbonnet of UCLA. And it is Devin Achane there of Texas A&M. Now, all 3 of these guys I would expect to disappear tonight. And all 3 of them bring different things to the table. And once we get to this point, and we see this every year of the NFL draft, once we get to this point, it is very important to see where these guys land. It's the same player. And you might say, well, it doesn't matter. It's the same. Nuh-uh. It really matters. And this is the point, 2nd round, 3rd round, certainly 4th and 5th round, where teams will take a shot on a running back, even if they've already got a guy. Some teams will take a shot on a running back because they don't have a guy. So it is critical when you see the draft tonight and you see where these guys land to understand where they are landing and the situation they are landing in, because they're not all created equal. And players, especially running backs, like their entire career, and this is going to sound outlandish, but their entire career can be dictated by where they land tonight. You don't want to land, let's say a spot where you wouldn't want to land. Maybe you don't want to land in Atlanta because, oh my God, they already have Bijan Robinson. You don't want to really land in Dallas. They already have Tony Pollard. He's sticking around there. Do you want to land with the Chargers? Well, they have Austin Eckler, even though Eckler may be on the move. So it's very important to know where you're landing. You don't want to land with like the Ravens, where it's like 4 dudes in the backfield. Are Denver, who's got like 3 guys, Detroit, who would have then 4. Like, you don't want to land on these spots where it's too confusing. So if you look at the places where Charbonnet, A-Chain, and Spears could land, here's what I spotlighted. Arizona at 33. They have James Conner, but let's be honest. It's almost expiration time for James Conner. That's how it works in the NFL. So Arizona's at 33. Rams at 36. Cam Akers did well in the second half, but that doesn't mean the Rams would bypass a running back. Vegas at 38. Carolina 39. New Orleans 40. Tennessee 41. They are coming up with a decision on Derrick Henry. And really on and on and on. I'm not going to sit here and say there are teams who won't draft a running back, because you would have thought one of them would be Detroit, and they did. There really aren't teams that won't load up on running backs. So we'll see tonight. Those 3 guys I spotlight, we could see 4 or 5 guys go in the backfield, and it will be very important tonight and tomorrow to kind of see where all those guys land. Moving on to item number 2 of what will matter for tonight. We did not get many tight ends in night 1. We only had 1. I thought we might have 2, maybe even 3 at the tight end position. Tonight, we're probably going to rectify that. And the one for me that I'm following is Michael Mayer of the University of Notre Dame. Michael Mayer is a guy who fits the profile of not really a blocking tight end. He is a receiving tight end. He is 6'4", 250. He is a seam threat. He is a so-so blocking guy. He had 19 touchdowns in 3 years at Notre Dame. Michael Mayer, where's he going to end up? Now, where could he end up? Detroit loves their tight ends. Dan Campbell loves using the tight end. Remember, they moved on from T.J. Hawkinson last season. Wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised, but not shocked if Detroit got involved at 34. Looking at the board, I could see Indy at 35. Carolina at 39 is kind of tempting. When you have Bryce Young, you stack him up with Michael Mayer. Green Bay has 2 picks at 42 and 45. We could see Mayer going there. Tampa at 50. So some real options for Mayer. And honestly, I'd say with the Rams, the Raiders, the Panthers, or I should say the Colts, Colts, Panthers, and Green Bay, I'd be pretty excited if Mayer were to end up in any of those 3 spots. Moving away from the NFL and all things draft, believe it or not, there are other things going on in the sports world. Our third item that will matter for this Friday night is the NBA and NHL playoffs and the chance for 3 West Coast clinchers. Golden State can clinch tonight against Sacramento. The Lakers can clinch tonight against Memphis. And yes, even the Seattle Kraken can clinch tonight against Colorado. Now let's take a look at each of these games. Starting with Golden State, Sacramento. Game is in Golden State. Golden State's up 3-2. They are favored by 7.5 points tonight. Now, if you look at a couple of nights ago, a lot of questions about De'Aaron Fox. He was playing with that fractured shooting finger. He was okay, but you look at the numbers. He was 9 of 25 shooting, and he was 3 of 10 from behind the arc. So the numbers were not all that good. The other thing that happened in Game 5 in Sacramento to get Golden State that road win was Draymond Green. I saw this number this morning, and it's kind of mind-blowing. Draymond Green may end up in the Hall of Fame. He's got the rings. He's got the reputation, defensive anchor, all that stuff, popularity, all that craziness. Draymond Green scored 21 points the other night against Sacramento. He had not scored more than 20 points in a game since Christmas Day of 2019. 3.5 years ago. He did that the other night against Sacramento. Game tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Again, Golden State is favored. By the way, if you want to take Sacramento to come back and win Game 6 and win Game 7, plus 600. If Sacramento can find a way tonight, you're going to love that plus 600 going into Game 7. Also in the NBA, Memphis and the Lakers. That is at 10:30 tonight. ESPN has it. Lakers are favored by 4.5. Here's who to watch. Desmond Bane. Now, we talk a lot about John Moran. Desmond Bane has been the scorer the last couple of times out for the Grizzlies. He had 36 points in Game 4. He had 33, I think it was the other night. Yeah, 36 and 33 in Games 4 and 5. Memphis got a huge win in Game 5. Now they got to do it in L.A. Now, they also caused LeBron James to have a very rough Game number 5. LeBron in that fifth game was 5 of 17 from the field. That was his worst shooting effort in a playoff game since 2014. And he's had a lot of playoff games since 2014. So if Memphis can somehow, some way find it in them defensively to slow down LeBron again, they're in a decent spot. I mentioned the series odds on Sacramento. Right now, if you want Memphis, it's plus 340 to win this series. Finally, in the world of hockey, we have Seattle, the Kraken, year number 2. If they win tonight in Seattle, in front of the home fans, they will knock out the defending champs. Colorado will be adios. Game time tonight, 10:30. You can catch it on TNT. 10 o'clock, actually. 10 o'clock on TNT. So like I said, all the West Coast action. LA, Golden State, now Seattle. 10 o'clock on TNT. Kel McCarr is going to be back. No Jared McCann still for Seattle. So McCarr got suspended for his hit on McCann. He set out in Game 5. Colorado lost. McCann's still not back, but Kel McCarr is back. Ty Cartier, I think it is. Ty Cartier. He was the guy who in his first ever NHL game, it was Game 5 the other night, first ever NHL game, scored the game winner. That big win for Seattle. He'll have his second NHL game tonight. Looking at the odds there, Seattle is plus 135 for the win tonight. Colorado is minus 155. So that is still favoring Colorado to win this thing. But check out the series odds. This is kind of wild. And this speaks to the math of everything. Seattle is minus 170 to win this series. Colorado is plus 145. Now, again, Colorado is minus 155 for tonight. Don't you have to think if they won tonight, they're back home in Denver for Game 7? Again, right now, you can get them at plus 145 to win Game 6 and win Game 7. We'll see. Should be fun tonight with those clinching possibilities. Let's go to our fourth thing that will matter on this Friday night. We go to the world of baseball, where we have not only a struggling Aaron Judge, but now we have an injured and limping Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, who 2 nights ago appeared to kind of sustain a minor injury to his hand. He stayed in the game, but he was shaking his hand. I said, okay, well, that's not good. Well, then last night, he is pulled out in the 4th inning of the Yankees' eventual win against the Texas Rangers. Turns out he was dealing with a hip injury. So he's not hitting, and we'll get to his numbers in a bit. He's got a slightly bum hand, and now there's something going on with the hip. Here's Aaron Judge talking after the game to Yes Network.
Just said that it was just during that second at bat that you started to feel a little something. Exactly what did you feel?
Just a little grab in the hip area, after that head first dive the other night, just kind of the whole right side has been a little locked up, and, it wasn't until, the second to last swing that at bat, I kind of felt something grab, and they kind of thought it'd be best just to kind of shut it down and see how we feel after a couple of days and get back in there.
So just to be clear, you did kind of feel something on the right side during that slide. It all kind of started from that, or you think that's isolated?
I think when we woke up this morning, you kind of feel a little bit more of what happened, but I think culmination of having that and then a couple swings today, just really couldn't get it loose, and then you feel a little something there in the second at bat, and best to shut it down and try to reevaluate it, see here after a couple days.
You say a couple days. Do you expect to play again this series?
I don't have the answers to that. We'll take it day to day and see how things feel.
Okay, Aaron, you don't know the answer. I'm going to give you the answer. Sit out tonight. Why? Not because you're injured or, that I know you're more injured than you know. Nothing like that. Sit out tonight because you're facing Jake DeGrom if you play. It's not worth it. Take a night off, right? Believe me, you're in a slump. Jake DeGrom ain't going to help this slump. Speaking of that slump, Aaron Judge had 4 home runs in the first 9 games this year. He has 2 home runs in his last 17 games. Check this out. 17 games, 70 plate appearances almost, 2 home runs. He's hitting .203. His on-base percentage is .304. His slug is .373. Aaron Judge is great. But this is now 2.5 weeks of Aaron Judge looking like crap. Really, looking like crap. And like for a fantasy player, anybody drafted Aaron Judge in the first round, overall, you're like, slow start, whatever. It takes 3 home runs and he's back. But this is 2.5 weeks of you're getting like a terrible outfielder that you drafted 5th overall. And now he's dealing with something. I don't know if it's IL worthy, but it's something for Aaron Judge. Yankees, of course, without Stanton. They're without Bader. They're without Donaldson. They're 6 games back in the American League East. Tonight, they're up against Jake DeGrom. Not happy times for New York, I don't think, at this point. 8:05 for that first pitch. DeGrom facing off against Clark Schmidt later tonight. Finally, our 5th item that will matter for tonight. Hey, if we're going to talk about one New York team, we better talk about the other New York team. It is on tonight. Tonight, NL East rivals will face off for the first time in 2023. The Atlanta Braves coming to Flushing. Braves and Mets tonight, game 1 of 4 between these two behemoths. Let's call them behemoths, right? Atlanta is probably more behemoth-y right now. 17-9. Mets are 15-11. This is the first meeting. It's a 4-game set. So they play tonight at 8:10, tomorrow at 4:05, Sunday at 1:40, and then there is a Monday afternoon game at 1:10. And it looks like, I told you about this 10 days ago, actually about a week ago, Max Scherzer going to be ready to pitch on that Monday. And I told you why Max Scherzer did not appeal that suspension. It would be so he'd be available for that game. That's why he didn't appeal it. So he is expected to be back for Monday to make that start against Atlanta. Speaking of Mets pitchers, coming up in just about 20 minutes, sounds like Justin Verlander will make his final rehab start at AA. Here is Verlander speaking last night to SN Television, talking about his return to the Mets rotation.
Really close. I want to be back out there competing really bad. Was tough. I always try to take a lot of pride in being out there on the mound and being there for the boys. And so this is a bit frustrating, especially because it took a little longer to bounce back from than we thought initially. But no point crying over spilled milk. So here we are, and thank goodness the boys have been playing really good baseball, and so that makes it a little bit easier. And I think the plan now is one more rehab start and then go.
The hope is about 4 innings today. I say the hope because he's pitching for AA Binghamton. That game was originally like a 5 o'clock start. They got rain coming in tonight, so they have moved this game up to 1 o'clock Eastern. So again, we're like 15, 20 minutes away from Verlander pitching. If everything goes well there, recovery, all that stuff, next Thursday, it's kind of where he's penciled in. That will be in Detroit, his old home, for next Thursday afternoon. So good news for the Mets there. Scherzer may be back on Monday, Verlander back on Thursday, and the huge series this weekend. I was looking at some of the numbers. Right now, Atlanta is 3rd in baseball in OPS. The Mets are right at the league average. On the pitching side, Atlanta's ERA plus is 130. Mets are 98. Remember, average is 100. FIP is a big favor for Atlanta pitching over the Mets pitching. Also of note tonight, we get set for the Max Fried, David Peterson showdown. Michael Harris II has been activated for the Braves. So, the Mets haven't had Scherzer, Verlander. Braves haven't had Michael Harris II. He is set to be back tonight, probably in that lineup for the Braves. 8:10 for the first pitch tonight. Okay, those are the 5 things that will matter for tonight. When we return here on the 5-Pack, it's time to rip open a pack. 1991 Pro Set Platinum. This is more silver, by the way, Pro Set. But I don't know what you would do to say, we're going to make a pack and make everybody think platinum. Now, this should have been called Pro Set Silver, right? We'll rip it open after this on the 5-Pack.
There is no other way to cut it. If you're the New York Rangers and you follow the New Jersey Devils in this series in the style and fashion, which looks like you're about to, it would be an unmitigated disaster. And all due respect to Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, it would be an absolute failure. The Rangers came into this season with expectations to win a Stanley Cup after losing in the Eastern Conference Finals last year to the Tampa Bay Lightning, after adding Vladimir Tarasenko from the St. Louis Blues, after adding Patrick Kane from the Chicago Blackhawks right in and around the NHL trade deadline. The goal and expectation, not to mention Trocheck in free agency last summer, the expectations this year were for the Rangers to potentially get to the Stanley Cup and lift Lord Stanley's Cup for the first time since 1994. They led this series against a young upstart Devil team that might be a little too early, a year too early, with an absolute young star in Jack Hughes, a superstar, 2-0 after winning the first 2 games on the road at the Rock in Newark. And now they trailed the series 3-2. They played lifeless in game 3, lifeless in game 4. They looked a little bit better in game 5. Still, only 23 shots on goal. They lost that game 4-0. So for Chris Drury, as everybody was giving him bows and throwing bouquets at his feet for what he did in the machinations to fit both Tarasenko and Kane under the salary cap right around in and around the NHL trade deadline, this would be a disaster. Let's see how much heart, grit, and fight the Rangers have game 6 Saturday night at the Garden, because if they lose that game, you know what? Heads may roll. For more content like this, go to Better Sports Network app, visit bettersports.com, and at Better Network on all your social media platforms.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Okay, we welcome you back into our final bit of action on this Friday. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll be right back here on the Better Sports Network next Monday at 12 Eastern with more of the 5-Pack. We do it every Monday through Friday. It is your one-stop shop. Because, hey, we realize life is busy. You miss things. You need to know things. We do it all for you in an hour. We also provide a Better Sports Network newsletter that can be delivered to your inbox each and every morning. Just go to bettersports.com, register, and boom, it's totally free. It's in your inbox. It gives you a rundown of contests that we're doing. I think we have a bet pretty well each and every day that we kind of like. Give you the show schedules, all that good stuff with that Better Sports newsletter. Again, bettersports.com is where you can sign up. Well, you can't have a 5-pack show without a pack, right? We have to. It's in the show's title. Today, we are going to be ripping open 1991 Pro Set. 12 cards. Pro Set has an interesting history. I think they got started in 1989, and by the time 1993 or 94 came around, they went bankrupt. So they were finished. They got sued and all this stuff. They were started in Dallas, Texas. I think early on they actually produced good cards, and then they just got ugly. Like we've done, I think a few weeks, maybe about a month or 2 ago, we opened one of these packs. These cards are not attractive. I'm just warning you. But, also Pro Set had hockey, and those cards weren't attractive. Let me see if I got a few of those over. Yeah, here. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they weren't. I mean, Pro Set hockey was kind of boring. Like they created some excitement on new set, on new thing, competition, all that stuff, but they kind of crapped it out when it came to design. And these are really ugly. Now, in terms of cards that might be worth something, let's see. Certificates have been randomly inserted and are redeemable for a very limited edition of Pro Set Platinum cards containing a gram minimum of platinum. Is that even legal? Can I hold something that has platinum as part of it? I don't even know. May not even get to find out if I can't open this damn thing. We are getting set to rip this pack open. I may just chew it open. Sorry about that. Hey, I don't have fingernails. That's what I do. I use my teeth. That's why God gave me teeth, to open up Pro Set Platinum packs. Now, in terms of cards that are worth something in this set, there aren't many. There's like a Brett Favre rookie, which yesterday we did 91 Upper Deck, and we didn't get the Brett Favre rookie. Maybe we can get one here, and it's not worth a ton. It's like maybe 20, 25 bucks. So that's what we're looking at. Now, again, these cards would be great to get autographs on, and that's about it. These would be great autograph cards, because I'm sorry, but if you're going to produce a trading card, give me a border, please. Now, again, it's like a small 8x10. Who is that? Jackie Slater, the Hall of Famer, offensive lineman for the Rams. But there's nothing. I mean, it may be, maybe minimalism, whatever you call it, minimalism works well. I don't think it works well here, though, for a football set. I'm sorry. But Jackie Slater, get a Hall of Famer with our first card. Probably worth all of 10 cents, Jackie Slater. But, like, again, it's autographs. Like if I run into an old football player and I get his then I'll use this card. It'd be great for autographs. It's not great for anything else. One of my favorites, one of the first true, I mean, there was Roger Craig, certainly. There was Thurman Thomas, certainly. There was also this guy, Eric Metcalf. Eric Metcalf was a great runner, receiver, kick returner. Is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? Where's he at on the football field? This guy was great. And look at action photo, Aaron Metcalf getting down, getting dirty. He's a platinum performer, according to ProSet. And I'll give credit. I've been slamming ProSet. I really enjoy the backs here. You know? Now you get no stats. There's no stats on any of these, right? Yeah, no stats. So kind of unique for a card set to come out and there's no stats. Guess you're just supposed to assume what the stats are. Maybe it wasn't mandatory. Up next, here's another crazy thing with these cards. I didn't even really notice it until I looked at this card. And I said, well, who the hell is that? There's no name on the front. It's almost avant-garde, right? No name on the front of a trading card. This is Joey Browner of the Minnesota Vikings. Gosh, we're going to test my knowledge of who all these guys are. I don't know this guy. Now I know. Jerry Gray, cornerback for the Rams. Looks like he's making a tackle on Jerry Rice. Jerry versus Jerry in that Pro Set card. Here's another 49er coming your way. Michael Carter, pretty good defensive lineman. Looks to be falling over. Now here is a great all-timer. It kind of looks like pretty hefty here. Before he left Philadelphia, Reggie White. I like that one. Look at that belly, though. Ooh, Reggie. Lay off the Cheetos, man. All-time great. Kind of was the first big NFL free agent. When he left Philadelphia, went to Green Bay. That was giant news in the early 90s. Dennis Byrd. I think we opened a set of these, like I said, a few weeks back, maybe a few months back. I feel like we got a Dennis Byrd. Let me see. I got this set handy. I was looking at it today. Had to remind myself how ugly it was. Maybe it was Dennis. Maybe it was another set, but I seem to recall this Dennis Byrd. Up next, man, we're just knocking out the linemen and linebackers. Brian Noble of the Green Bay Packers. Do you ever get tired of those Tampa Bay Bucks uniforms? Like back in the day, they were ugly. Now they're kind of cool, right? Kind of cool in 2023. Here is, let me separate the card. Yeah. Cortez Kennedy, who I think Cortez Kennedy was like number one. I think he was a number one overall pick out of Miami for the Seattle Seahawks. He was an okay player, not great. Ronnie Lippett. Zip it. Ronnie Lippett of the New England Patriots. Got the old Patriots helmet. With the Atlanta Falcons, Jesse Tuggle. I mean, this like entire pack is a bunch of defenders. And then we close it down with an unfortunate, man, two unfortunate photos. Willie Gault, who was a running mate with Tim Brown. Willie Gault was also an Olympian. He ran track in the Olympics. Here he is dropping a football. Like, seriously, you're going to create a card where I'm dropping the football. And if that's not bad enough, here he is on the back getting upended, trying to catch the football. Willie Gault, what a rough Pro Set card. We're going to show you dropping the football in the front. And on the back, we're going to be showing you getting upended by the cornerback. There it is, Pro Set Platinum. We got one offensive player. Is that right? Did we really get one offensive player? No, we got two. We got Willie Gault and Eric Metcalf. We'll see you on Monday.